What is going on, guys? Welcome back. Thank you for watching again. I'm Anthony Mondo. Today we are going to talk about pre-spawn fishing. Now out here in California, it is just starting to become that time. The weather has been nice and the water's finally warming up. The other day it was low 50s. By the end of this weekend it should be in the mid to high 50s hopefully. So fish are coming out of their deep dwelling spots from the winter, and you're gonna find them on first and secondary points, isolated pieces of cover, you know, starting to transition, move back into those pockets where they're gonna get ready to spawn. Right now is a good time to catch a lot of fish. If you find big schools of them, or just schools in general, you will find fish on a lot of points and isolated cover, and you will catch them because they're hungry and they're feeding crazy. So today we're going to talk about some of the baits that I like to throw reaction wise. We'll do a finesse video later on, but right now for reaction baits that I have found to be my go-tos are going to be a crankbait for one. So let's start off with a crankbait. This here is a dredger by Berkley. It's a 25 footer. So I will throw deep cranks later in the afternoon when that sun gets real high. Maybe the fish go deeper. It depends on all different lakes in that day. So let's say the fish go deeper. This is what I'm gonna throw. I'm gonna throw a deep crank around isolated cover, around those long rock points, things like that. That's where I'm gonna be throwing these. Now comes the color. I like to throw a little bit of yellow in there. I like the yellow in clear water, especially. You know, bright reds are real good during this time of year too. Those crawdads are coming out to feed. Bright reds can do really well. Shad patterns also, I kind of stay away from like real natural looking things just because I don't know, preference wise. But these are my two go-tos when it comes to this time of year. Like I said, deep diver 25 feet. This one here is a 14 to 15 feet. And then when it comes to shallower water, right, we're gonna throw a square bill. I'm just gonna stick with the red right now, just because it's that time of year. When the water or a cold front comes in and the water temperature drops all of a sudden, I'm gonna throw something with a tighter wobble. This is the Fritz side. So this goes 7 feet, but it has a really tight action, and this is what I'm gonna stick to if all of a sudden the heat comes back down and it gets cold and the fish start slow moving again because of the cold front, something like that. I'm gonna stick with the tight wobbling crankbait. So those are my go-to for cranks. You know, you got your deep, you got your mid, you got your shallow, and you got a tight wobble, like I said, for those colder days. Now when it comes to what rod I'm gonna use for that, I'm gonna try to find a really long rod. This here is a, I believe this is, yes, this is a 710 Mike Iaconelli delay series, medium heavy. The reason I go really long is to help me get those really deep diving crankbaits way out there, so I have more of a bottom contact with that crankbait. Because of that longer cast, it'll have time to stay deeper in that strike zone longer. I'll pair it up with the slow gear ratio reel. This is the winch, the Revo winch. It's a 5-gear ratio, and I usually go anywhere from 15 to 10 pound line, fluorocarbon line, depending on the water clarity. If it's real murky, 15, you know, they're not going to see it. That's fine. Where we were at this weekend, it was like 15-foot visibility, so I'm going to go with 10-pound line. Also depends on what kind of cover you're throwing around. Rocks and stuff like that, it's not really going to do much. If you're throwing around a lot of laydowns and stuff like that, you could fray up your line pretty quick. You know, bouncing your crankbait over those logs and stuff like that. You know, so it all depends what you're fishing around. Clear the water, light of the line I usually go. Murky the water, doesn't really matter. You can go heavier, right? Doesn't matter, you're not gonna see it. So that is for the crankbait setup. Now, let's go to, say you're fishing around underwater trees, submerged trees. They're a couple feet off the, you know, from the surface. A really tall grass, laying down trees on the bank, things like that. I'm gonna go to, or if you find those suspended fish, I'm gonna go to a jerkbait. Okay, jerkbait can be deadly at this time of year. Doesn't matter what jerkbait in general will work. trust me, they kill it. But I'm not gonna burn it. This is not the time to fast move a jerk bait, as I found it. I don't move them fast at this time here. I'm gonna 1, 2, pause for like a second, and then that third hit, and then I'm gonna wait about 10 seconds. Just let it sit there, right? Get one that doesn't sink, that just kind of stays right in the same spot. And then again, 1, 2, 3, let sit for about 10-30 seconds. This is going to be extremely effective around those areas. When it comes to gear, again, I'm going to use a 7-foot medium moderate. This is the Vendetta by Abu Garcia. I'm going to throw it with the Revo Premier. This is my setup here that I really like. It's 6:3:1 gear ratio. I'm going to put that on 10-pound tests. That is usually what I throw my jerkbaits with. Only 10-pound tests. I found that there's less weight of the line pulling the bait down, so it has more of a free erratic motion. That's why I stay with the 10-pound test. So this is a killer around those underwater trees, those really tall grass patches that are just under the surface. If your water is extremely clear, you're going to throw a jerkbait. If it's murky, there's no point to throw a jerkbait. They're not going to see it. It's a bait to pull fish from areas to see your bait. Does that make sense? It's a bait you use to, when it's really clear, it draws fish in, right? They need to see it. Like, if it's only like 2 feet of visibility, it's not really going to work much. In that case, you need to put like right in front of them. So clear water bait is a jerk bait. Now, another killer is a lipless. Okay, a lipless is a good time to throw these baits this time of year. Fish can be extremely active. This is for, right, when your fish are extremely active, you're going to throw one of these. Depends on models. There's a bunch of different models of lipless, right? You got the ones that you want to throw in the grass, you want to bury in the grass, you want to rip it out, right? They come flying out and they, sink back down. This one here, this is the IMA. This one here, this is the IMA. It's a great bait. It doesn't sink and it doesn't rise. You crank it, it sinks 3 feet or something around there, 3 feet, and then when you stop it, it completely stops and stays still. So this is a bait that I'm going to use as of right now, just because the fish aren't completely chasing anything right now. They're just starting to get into that period, so I'm looking for that reaction strike, that kind of, it makes them go after it. Where like crankbait, you're cranking along, if they're really active, they're going to go after it. This is kind of like, they kind of have to, they feel like it, right? You're going to crank it, burn it, 1, 2, 3, kill it, and it stops. And then they come out, check it out, and then you burn it 1, 2, 3, and it stops again. So that kind of kicks in their predatory instincts where like they have to go after it, right? So that's why I'm going to throw this IMA at this time of year. This is, can't remember what model this is, but this is just, the regular IMA lipless bait that I think they only make 1 or 2 of them, but this is what it looks like. So that's a great bait for this time of year. Just, just having it stop there and sit there is like, it kills the bass. They need to hit it. This is also my square barrel rod. This is a HMX by Fenwick. It's a 6.6. I like the lighter, I like the shorter rod, just because when I'm throwing a lipless, or especially this lipless, or a square barrel, I'm usually tighter up to the bank and shallower cover. So I don't need a real long rod. If I'm trying to flip under trees or something with those baits, it's real short. I'm not going to hit the tree or get hung up or anything like that. It's not a long rod to run into stuff, basically. I also use this rod to flip under docks. So this is my go-to with these certain baits here. This is also a Revo Premier with a 6:3:1 ratio. 12-pound test is what I'm going to use with this, just because of the trees and the grass, potentially pulling it out. If it does get stuck, you need that extra line strength just to rip it on out of there. So this is what I go with here on those slower moving days for these fish. Now, if you got to pick up the Finesse rod, if you have to, right? Say they're creeping, they're stuck to the bottom, it's cold front or whatever. Even if it's not a cold front, they're just slow moving, right? This guy right here, this is a 1/8 head cool bait underspin with a mega bass. Can't remember the name of this bait exactly. I'll put the links in the description below of all these baits, But this guy right here, this is only 2.8 inches with a 1/8 head, and I'm gonna throw this guy. Water depth isn't gonna stop me, right? I'm looking for rock piles in particular with this, and depth of the water, like I said, is not gonna stop me. I'm gonna let this sink all the way to the bottom, and I'm gonna slow creep it all the way back in, just letting that blade bounce off those rocks. Smallmouth and spots cannot resist this. I've caught some giants with this. Doesn't look like much, but it catches them. So at this time of year too, you know, they're feeding again, and if they get slow moving, it's a great bait to get them to, you know, get those bass triggered to bite. You gotta try it out if you haven't. Just a small swim bait in general, you gotta try them out. So I'll throw this. This is the Elite Tech by Fenwick. It's a 7-foot medium fast. I like that faster tip just because they usually smack it, and it kind of sets the hook just for you, you know. You don't really have to pull in them too hard with that fast tip. It's like instant. So I will throw it with the MGX, Revo MGX, with I believe this is 6 pound. This is 6 pound fluoro. I'll go mono to fluoro. I'm sorry, not mono. I'll go braid to fluoro. This is a 10 pound braid to either between a 4 and a 6 pound test of fluoro is what I usually tie my leaders with on this guy. Fantastic technique for this time of year. If you guys haven't tried it, you got to check it out. Now, one less thing you can't forget about at this time of year: an A-rig. A-rig can be absolutely deadly at this time of year. You can fish it shallow. You can fish it mid-depth, right in the middle of the water column, or you can grind it on the bottom. Fish will smack an A-rig. Okay, this is the junior. I can't remember. Oh, this is the Booyah Junior. That's what this is. And I'll put, like I said, I'll put everything in the descriptions below. You guys can check it all out. These are the Matt Allen swim heads. Got some. My middle Kitech is always bigger. This is a 3/8. I got 3 3s on the sides, and I got the 2 8s on top. That's just the way I like to set my A-rig up. And of course, I'll put the Hyperwire split wire rings on there, and kind of change some stuff up. California, you can only have 3 hooks, so make sure what state you're in, you look at the regulations of how many hooks that you can have on your A-rig. Some's 1, some is 2. California's 3. Some states I know it doesn't even matter, so check that out on you know, your Department of Fish and Wildlife. They definitely have it all written in there. But an A-rig, you cannot leave it on A-rig. So guys, you know, those fish, don't forget, they're coming from those winter hideouts. They're going to those they're going to start on those primary points, and they're going to slowly work their way back as the spawn continues and the water gets warmer. They're going to start spawning. You're going to see that they're going to go back into those flats. So follow those fish from those deep hideouts and follow them back all the way into those spawning areas. If you get on a point, let's say it's a secondary point, right, and you're catching all small males, back up a little bit. Okay, back up, because those females are right behind them somewhere. Maybe you have to go deeper. Okay, on the same point, maybe you just got to go deeper. Maybe you have to back up completely and go to that first point. Maybe there's a rock pile between first and second point. You just got to graph and look and see where those females are at. I promise you, they're not far behind. So guys, I hope all that stuff helps you out, and hit that link down below. Check out all this gear. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe. Thank you all for watching, and I hope this helps you guys catch more fish in the pre-spawn.